Thank you for tuning in. Our next presenter is Gordon Deans, CEO of Aurora Solar Technologies. Mr. Deans, you may begin.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for attending, and nice to virtually meet you. So I'll spend a few minutes describing Aurora and what our business is all about, and then I'll take some questions after that. So first of all, before I get going on the main body of the presentation, I just want to remind you that this presentation will contain forward-looking statements, and due to the current pandemic, we also have made statements regarding the impact of that, and I encourage you, if you're interested, to read the latest MD&A, which contains more information on that. All right, so I'll move now into the main body of the presentation. Aurora Solar Technologies is a company that makes products that are used in solar cell manufacturing for the purposes of increasing the yield and therefore the profitability of those manufacturing plants. When you make a solar cell, which is one of the devices that goes into a solar panel, and it's the part that actually generates the electricity when sunlight strikes the panel, the typical profit margin is fairly low for these companies. They're high volume, low margin businesses running around 20% gross margins. And the products are priced on the basis of the power that they can generate. So it's very important for them to have as much yield as possible of higher quality or higher power generating solar cells at the end of the production line. So what we provide is we provide instrumentation and also an upcoming product, which I'm going to spend most of my time on describing in this presentation. It's a software product that we're just introducing this year that allows them to be able to monitor how well the production machines are working, and also to optimize and also troubleshoot operations within the manufacturing plant. As most of you, I'm sure, are aware, the renewable energy market is a large and rapidly growing market. In solar specifically, the growth rate over the past 2 decades has been 25% average annual, or cumulative annual growth rate. And this looks to be continuing unabated. The growth continues. And the annual capital expenditures as of about a year ago were in the range of $4.3 billion of capital for plant expansions and upgrades. Of that capital, our addressable market is roughly $525 million, and that includes our products plus all products that are related to instrumentation and control in the manufacturing plants. So this is a very high growth, very attractive industry to be in, and has huge potential as we look ahead. Now, I earlier described the challenge, which is to get the most yield from the manufacturing plant. And on this slide, entitled Aurora is the Solution, what I do is I show where we fit in to helping companies with that. So along the bottom, you can see that the raw material for making solar cells, which is silicon wafers, will go through a number of manufacturing steps, which will then yield finished solar cells. So these include things such as certain thermal treatments, infusion of chemicals into the wafers in order to make them activated for power production, printing metal on the front and the back, and so forth. In the critical steps, what's important is to measure the output, not just what the machine thinks it's doing, but what's actually being produced at that step, and to determine whether it's within the expected limits of variation. Now, measuring just produces a number. You also need to be able to put that into the context. So, for example, some of these machines are large furnaces, and you need to know what's going on in one portion of the furnace as opposed to another portion. So visualizing spatially and in time is very important to put the measurements in context. And then the last thing you need to do is to feed back any control that you need to do to bring something that's moving out of line back into line, or to improve the operation of a particular machine or all the machines in the plant as well. So this is what we provide. The Over on the measure side, you see DM and visualize, and that's our measurement instruments that are used at one of the steps in the manufacturing process. And then in control, this is where we are introducing our Insight product, which looks at the entire manufacturing line and looks at how all the machines are interacting with each other and what the ultimate output is in terms of the efficiency of the solar cells for converting electricity, and what may or may not be causing less than optimal results at the end of the line. Okay. So the new product, Insight, is a proprietary tool that looks at what's going on at the end of the production line and then uses that to be able to tell the customers what's going on in the entire line from the start to the finish. What's very interesting about solar cell manufacturing is that unlike a lot of other industries, every single solar cell that is produced goes through tests at the end of the line. And the reason for this is, as I said, they're valued or sold on the basis of how much power they produce. So they each individually have to be tested. And then they are grouped into bins or categories for use in the panels and for sale if they're going to be sold directly. The difference is that the electrical characteristics are looked at, and they all vary a little bit as you run them through. Now, in a typically sized solar cell manufacturing plant, there'll be almost 1 billion cells produced a year. So what that means is that there's a huge amount of data available, and we can use data science techniques similarly to what companies like Google or Amazon do with customer data. We look at the electrical data that's being produced and do the same kind of data science manipulation on it in order to be able to figure out why one cell is a little different than another. The other thing that we do is we integrate with tracking of the material through the plant. So at any given step in the manufacturing process, there will be multiple machines, and they will all be behaving a little bit differently from each other, even though they're supposed to be exactly the same. So what we're able to do is to use the data that we get at the end of the line and the manipulation of that data, plus the information about where the wafers were at each step in the process. And this allows us to pinpoint exactly what the behavior is of each of the manufacturing tools or pieces of equipment within the plant. And we can pinpoint the best and the worst performing machines. We can identify the best routes through the plant. And we can therefore also identify when there's large variations occurring or unusual variations, where that is, what the cause of it is, and how the customer should remediate that in order to continue to maximize their yield. So this is very important for all companies. And right now, there is no good way of doing this other than manual, laborious hunting and pecking to find problems, or during optimization to run experiments that will take certain machines offline and therefore make them unused for production for a while and reduce the throughput of the plant. Given the nature of these companies with their relatively modest margins and very, very high throughput, experiments in order to optimize, troubleshooting a problem, all these sorts of things need to be either minimized or fast in order for them to maintain or even improve their profit margins. So this is a very, very critical need. And what we're doing is we're replacing laborious manual methods that are not good for throughput with automated procedures that allow them to be able to minimize that sort of thing and to get the most out of the plants all the time, 365 days a year. This, as a novel product in a relatively new industry, we're being very careful about how we launch this in the market. So we have a phase 1 product, which is what we describe as a minimum viable product. We call that Insight Essentials. And it introduces the wafer tracking and the basic capabilities for doing the data collection and the analysis of it. And this is our product in order to get the market started. So we're doing selective introduction of this and validation of it with lead customers. We're in the process of working that out with one customer now, and we expect to have the system installed there very soon. This is a customer who's also been is an existing customer for our measurement products, and also has been a beta trial customer for early versions of this product. Then we will introduce to a second customer in mainland China, where most of the manufacturing of solar cells is done. 70 to 80% of the world's solar cells are made in China. And also get them up and running and have a case study customer that can then be used as a marketing advantage for us in terms of introducing this to new customers. We intend to sell this product on a subscription basis. So one of the most important things is to make sure that it is seen as highly valuable for the customers so that they're willing to pay an attractive price for their subscriptions. So this is part B of the market launch strategy, which is where we start to bring in some of the more advanced capabilities that give deeper and more comprehensive capabilities in terms of optimization, and also much stronger capabilities in being able to very rapidly troubleshoot issues, especially the complex ones that tend to involve interactions amongst multiple steps in a manufacturing process. Later, we will link our other products into Insight to provide a comprehensive common ecosystem or technology base for the customers to be able to not just be able to optimize and troubleshoot, but also to be able to do real-time detailed control at each of the manufacturing steps as well. And this is commensurate with more mature industries such as pharmaceuticals, chemical plants, and paper mills, for example, where the same evolution occurred but decades ago. So we're bringing that now to the much younger solar cell manufacturing industry. In line with the evolution of the products, we recently announced a very exciting new agreement, marketing and development agreement, with one of the top manufacturers of those testers that go at the end of the line, a company named Wavelabs. So Wavelabs provides capabilities in their testers that enable Part C on this slide, Part B, the introduction of the Phase 2 features. Because for those certain capabilities during the cell tests to generate information about behavior of the cells beyond the typical ones that are used today are necessary. And Wavelabs has that capability built into their products. So our agreement with them, as one of the two major players in this industry, is to market the products together, integrate their Insight into their product. And you can actually go to their website and you can see that they have actually made an announcement about this. And they show on the front of one of these testers, which you see an image of here, a label that says Insight inside. They also intend to work with us to bring the Insight products into their existing customers. So not just new customers, but also the existing embedded base of customers that they have, which is at this point roughly 1/3 of the entire manufacturing industry for solar cells, and is growing as they build their presence. So at this point, what I'd like to do now is turn to that's the product description and the business description. I'd like to turn quickly to the equity structure, and then I'll take questions after that. So Aurora, this slide actually as of November 30th is a little bit out of date. Some of the warrants you see here have been exercised and turned into common shares. And our market cap has significantly increased since then. The share price is at this point running in the high 30s up to about 40 or 42 cents. The employee director options remain the same, and the total market cap right now is roughly $40 million at this point in time. There's significant holdings by the insiders and founding investors, and the shareholder base is one that has shown strong loyalty and interest in the company over a long period of time. Okay, so with that, I will now wrap up. I'll just say a few words to wrap up and then take questions. Why should you own shares in Aurora? Well, first of all, you're participating in the industry of the future that's rapidly growing and has significant interest in general in the stock markets worldwide. Secondly, we're addressing unmet needs during the manufacturing processes in a way that allows the customers to actually increase their profitability and their capability to produce quality products. Thirdly, we're building a base with peers in the industry like Wavelabs in order to be able to work together to provide the customers with benefits. And lastly, the management team and the board of directors are experienced people who have built companies in the microcap market and the small cap market turnarounds, and so have a significant business experience and a track record of success. So I'd like to thank you for your attention and time, and now I'll turn to the questions. Okay. So the first question I have here is, when do you expect to be selling Insight, and what is the demand and feedback from the beta testing? So what I can say about that is that the expectation is that we will be selling Insight this year. To a degree, it depends on, some of the sales anyway, depend on the timing for the resumption of business travel internationally. Our first work is with our lead customer that I described earlier, and we expect them to purchase the product, and we don't need to travel to them in order to get the evaluation and then ultimately the sale going, because we have a strong existing business relationship with them, and they have also been a company where we've typically tried out new things, so they're very open to new products and new ways of doing things. The sales, I expect, where it's really going to matter are going to be in mainland China. We would see that shortly after we're able to resume travel and do the necessary business development and sales activities with them. So that will be this year, we hope. In fact, that's what we expect. And if travel is continued to be delayed, we also anticipate actually bringing in people who are in country in China and do that on our behalf as well in order to not delay. The demand and the feedback from the beta testing is high. The customer wants it now. They've been very happy with the beta and use that every day. The demand from other places, we have one other customer who's done some limited beta testing, and they're very interested and they want the product as well. And discussions with customers who have not been beta testers have said, yes, this is something that we want, and we will make good use of it. The next question is, where are you in the development phase of the Insight software? Is it up and running? The first version, Insight Essentials, is up and running, and that's what we're going to be deploying to the first customer this month. The next version, which uses the capabilities that I described in the Wavelabs tester, that are advanced beyond the typical end-of-line tests. The algorithms have been designed and tested, and the software development will be starting soon for that. There's really just building the algorithms in and some additional user interface work required for that. The basic platform that incorporates all the data manipulation and the wafer tracking and so forth exists in the Insight Essentials product. Okay, now I have one last, well, I'll refresh and see if there's more questions. Okay. Company is already trading near a 52-week high. How much more upside is there? Well, that's a very difficult question to answer because I don't control the stock market. In my opinion, the growth of the industry at 25% cumulative annual growth rate a year If you just look at that alone and you look at the strategy that we have with respect to building the product portfolio out to encompass more and more of the addressable market as we go ahead, means that there is upside, but I really can't quantify that in terms of what the share price might be at any given time. Okay, and I'm going to take the last question. What is the estimated phase 1 launch date, phase 2? I think I addressed most of that in the first answer. The phase 1 launch date is basically as soon as we get this first product into our lead customer. We're going to run this through the standard process that we do, or expect to do, I should say, which is to start, because it's a new product doing new things, is to start with an evaluation phase where we work really closely with the customer, very hands-on, to make sure they're successful with it and that they get benefit from it. Then we turn that evaluation into a paid subscription. So we're in the process of just getting that negotiated with the lead customer now, and so the launch date will be this quarter with that lead customer. Launch date in China is going to be commensurate with what I described earlier. Phase 2, we expect to do that in the second half of the year. As I said, the algorithms have been developed and tested already for that, and we've already reached the agreement with Wavelabs. So the next step for that is to do the software development, which is incremental to the existing software base for the product. Okay. Well, that's all the questions, and we're running pretty close to the end of our time. So I'd like to thank everybody once again. And of course, if you are interested in further information about the company, you can contact Jake Boma, who is our head of communications and investor relations. And his contact information is on our press releases and also at the end of the presentation. Again, thank you very much, and I hope the rest of the conference goes well for you.
And that concludes this webcast. Thank you.